The Discovery. The Martian dust storm had finally subsided, revealing the excavation site in all its rusty glory. Dr. Nora Vega adjusted her helmet's visor and stepped out of the research habitat, her boots crunching on the iron-rich soil. After 3 years leading the xenorchaeological expedition, she'd grown accustomed to disappointment. Mars had given up its water secrets, its geological marvels, but the evidence of alien visitation she sought remained frustratingly elusive. "Dr. Vega, you need to see this." The voice of her assistant, Dr. Kai Chen, crackled through her comms. His tone set off immediate alarms in her mind. Excitement mixed with disbelief. Nora trudged across the dig site, her heart rate gradually increasing. The team had been excavating a peculiar anomaly detected by ground-penetrating radar, a perfect geometric structure buried beneath centuries of Martian sediment. Most likely another false alarm, a naturally occurring formation that mimicked artificial structure. But Kai's expression, visible through his helmet, told her this was different. "We just cleared the last section," he said, gesturing toward the pit. Well, see for yourself." Nora approached the edge and looked down. The breath caught in her throat. Nestled in the rusty soil sat a perfect dodecahedron, approximately 1 meter in diameter. Its surface gleamed with an iridescent sheen that shifted colors as she moved, impossible in the dim Martian light. Most striking was its pristine condition. No dust adhered to its surface, despite being buried for what must have been millennia. "How long has it been exposed?" she asked, her scientific training kicking in despite her awe. 37 minutes, Kai replied. "We've recorded everything according to protocol." Nora climbed down the ladder into the pit, approaching the object carefully. Its surface displayed no seams, no indication of how it had been manufactured. As she drew closer, she felt a strange tingling sensation across her skin, even through her sealed environment suit. "Are you getting any radiation readings?" she asked. "Nothing dangerous," replied Dr. Fatima Okoro, their team physicist, who was monitoring from the habitat. "But there's something odd. The object appears to be emitting a complex electromagnetic field that doesn't match any known pattern." Nora reached out, hesitating just centimeters from the surface. Every scientific protocol warned against direct contact with unknown extraterrestrial objects, but something deeper than rational thought compelled her forward. Her gloved fingertips made contact with the smooth surface. The object responded immediately. Its color shifted to a deep blue, and subtle lines of light began to trace intricate patterns across its surface. Nora snatched her hand back, but the transformation continued. The patterns resolved into symbols, not static, but flowing and changing like liquid light. "Tell me someone's recording this," she whispered. "Every camera we have," Kai confirmed, his voice hushed with awe. The object began to hum, a sound that seemed to bypass their ears and resonate directly within their skulls. More alarmingly, it started to hover, rising slowly until it floated a meter above the Martian soil. "Everyone back," Nora ordered, retreating up the ladder. "Initiate first contact protocols." Within hours, the site was transformed into a hive of activity. The research team established a containment perimeter around the object, which continued to hover, displaying its shifting patterns. Every sensor available was trained on it, gathering data that grew increasingly baffling. "It's not just emitting electromagnetic radiation," Fatima explained during their emergency briefing. "It's generating patterns in quantum fields that our instruments can barely detect, let alone interpret. This technology is..." She hesitated. "Well, it makes our most advanced quantum computers look like abacuses." "Any progress on the symbols?" Nora asked, turning to Dr. Maya Harrison, their linguist. Maya shook her head. "They don't match any known system, human or theoretical alien. The patterns seem almost biological, like they're adapting and evolving as we watch. More concerning, they're changing in response to our observation methods." "It knows we're studying it," Kai said quietly. 3 days later, with the object continuing its enigmatic display, Earth finally responded to their urgent communications. The message was brief. A military contingent was being dispatched immediately. The discovery was now classified at the highest level. "This is still my excavation," Nora argued over the encrypted video link with Director Harlow of the International Space Agency. The director's expression remained impassive. "Not anymore, Dr. Vega. The implications are too significant to remain in civilian hands." When Colonel Victor Reed arrived with his team a week later, Nora was still fuming. The artifact, now officially designated XA-1, had been moved to a secure facility constructed with remarkable speed. Reed, a tall man with calculating eyes and military precision in every movement, wasted no time establishing dominance. "Your team will continue research under military supervision," he informed Nora. "All findings are now classified Level Black." "Level Black doesn't exist," she retorted. Reed's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Exactly." Despite the constraints, the research continued. The object maintained its activity, the symbols growing increasingly complex. 2 weeks in, the breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. "Dr. Vega," Kai called, his voice strained with excitement. "We've been approaching this all wrong. The patterns, they're not meant to be interpreted visually." He directed her attention to a new analysis he'd been running. A conversion of the light patterns into genetic sequences. "It's not a language. It's a genome," he explained, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. "But unlike anything on Earth, the complexity suggests it could encode not just biological information, but cognitive data, memories, knowledge." Nora stared at the unfolding data. "You're saying it's a biological database?" "More like a backup," Kai suggested. "Or a message encoded in the most fundamental language of life itself." Colonel Reed, who had been observing silently, stepped forward. "Can we decode it? With our current computing power, centuries," Kai admitted. "Unless..." The physicist's hesitation drew all eyes. "Unless what, Dr. Chen?" Reed pressed. "Unless we use the quantum interface Dr. Okoro detected. The artifact isn't just displaying information. It's trying to connect." The debate raged for days. The risks were incalculable, but the potential knowledge was too tempting to ignore. Eventually, a compromise was reached. A highly secure, isolated system would be allowed to interface with the artifact under strict containment protocols. The connection, when established, exceeded their wildest expectations and most terrifying fears. The quantum interface flared to life, the artifact's surface blazing with energy. Data flooded into their systems at rates that should have been impossible, overwhelming their buffers and spilling into secondary and tertiary backup systems. "Shut it down," Reed shouted as alarms blared. But before anyone could react, the flow stopped on its own. The artifact settled into a gentle pulsing glow, as if satisfied with its communication. Maya was the first to access the translated data, her expertise in linguistics making her the natural choice. Her face, already pale from weeks on Mars, drained of all remaining color as she read. "Dr. Harrison," Nora prompted when the silence stretched uncomfortably long. "It's a message," Maya whispered, "from something that calls itself the Architects. It's about us, humans." The room fell silent as Maya struggled to find words. "According to this, humanity isn't what we think we are. We weren't just visited by aliens in the past, we were created by them." Colonel Reed scoffed. "Religious nonsense." "Not religion," Maya countered, her voice stronger. "Engineering. The message says human beings were designed as..." She paused, searching for the right translation. "As weapons." The revelation hit the room like a physical force. Nora found herself reaching for support. "Weapons against what?" Reed demanded. Maya continued scrolling through the data. "Something they call the void. A threat that exists between dimensions, consuming reality itself. The Architects claim they engineered humanity with dormant capabilities, genetic potential that surpasses any other species they've created. If this is true," Fatima whispered, Why haven't these capabilities manifested? The answer came not from Maya, but from the artifact itself. It pulsed once, brilliantly, and new data flowed into their systems. Data containing genetic keys, activation sequences, and a warning. The warning was simple. They were coming. The architects had detected the activation of XA1 and were returning to verify if their creation was ready. Ready for what remained unclear, but the implication was catastrophic. Humanity was about to face its creators, and they expected their weapon to be prepared for war. As this realization settled over the team, reports began flooding in from Earth. People worldwide were experiencing strange phenomena, heightened awareness, impossible intuitive leaps, spontaneous access to knowledge they couldn't possibly possess. The artifact had sent more than information. It had sent an activation signal. Humanity's dormant potential was awakening, and the cosmos was about to discover exactly what the architects had created. The awakening. The first reports were isolated enough to be dismissed as anomalies. A chess grandmaster in Russia suddenly developed the ability to calculate 60 moves ahead. A struggling artist in Brazil painted mathematical theorems she couldn't consciously comprehend. A child in Kenya spoke of cosmic structures astronomers had yet to discover. But within days, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Humanity was changing. Dr. Nora Vega watched the global feeds from the Mars Command Center, trying to make sense of the escalating situation. The artifact, now referred to as the catalyst, continued its gentle pulsing, seemingly satisfied with the chaos it had unleashed. It's affecting everyone differently, Kai observed, sorting through the data. The changes appear tied to individual neural architecture, but they're all following the same fundamental pattern: enhanced cognitive processing, accelerated intuition, and access to what can only be described as non-local information. They're becoming like us, a voice stated from the doorway. Nora turned to find Colonel Reed, his normally rigid posture slightly slumped. Dark circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept in days. "What do you mean?" she asked. Reed approached, displaying his hand. Tiny motes of light danced between his fingers, responding to subtle movements, manipulating quantum fields that should have been inaccessible to human perception, let alone control. "It started yesterday," he explained, his voice unnaturally calm. "I can see patterns now, in everything. Energy fields, probability waves, the underlying structure of reality itself." Nora felt a chill run through her. Reed had been one of the most vocal skeptics of the artifact's message. His transformation was perhaps the most convincing evidence that humanity truly was more than it appeared. "The architects built backdoors into our genome," Fatima theorized, entering the room with a holographic display hovering before her. Genetic sequences designed to activate under specific stimuli. The catalyst provided that stimulus, a quantum key that's unlocking capabilities that have been dormant for our entire evolutionary history. Maya joined them, her eyes glowing with an inner light that hadn't been present before. "It's more than physical changes. I can understand languages I've never studied, perceive meaning in patterns that shouldn't make sense. It's as if we're remembering rather than learning," Kai finished for her. The phenomenon that began on Earth soon reached Mars. The research team found themselves evolving, each in unique ways that somehow complemented the others. Nora developed an intuitive understanding of temporal mechanics, perceiving cause and effect as malleable rather than fixed. Kai discovered he could interface directly with technology, his consciousness extending into digital systems, like water flowing into new channels. 7 days after the initial activation, long-range sensors detected the first ships entering the solar system. The architects had arrived. Their vessels defied conventional design, resembling organic crystalline structures that shifted and flowed rather than rigid constructions. They approached with methodical precision, establishing a formation around Earth that sparked immediate panic among those still thinking in conventional terms. "It's not an invasion force," Nora realized, studying the patterns. "It's an evaluation team." The first transmission came through all communication channels simultaneously, bypassing encryption and technological barriers as if they didn't exist. The message was simple: demonstrate readiness. Humanity's response came not from governments or military leaders, but from individuals worldwide who had embraced their awakening. The collective consciousness began to form, not eliminating individuality, but creating a network of shared understanding that transcended language and cultural barriers. Through this emerging network, humans coordinated a response that demonstrated their transformed capabilities. Quantum communications that shouldn't have been possible with Earth technology, energy manipulations that rewrote local physics, cognitive models that predicted the architects' movements before they made them. The architects responded with a more complex transmission, a full diplomatic contact requesting an audience with humanity's leaders. The meeting was held in a neutral location, Earth's moon. A delegation of transformed humans, including Nora and her team who had returned from Mars, gathered in a hastily prepared facility. The architects, when they finally revealed themselves, weren't what anyone expected. They appeared as crystalline entities that shifted between states of matter, their forms suggesting both technological and biological origins. Communication happened on multiple levels simultaneously: verbal language, quantum information exchange, and direct cognitive interfacing. "You have awakened sooner than anticipated," the lead entity stated, its voice resonating in both air and mind. "The void's advance must be accelerating." "What exactly is the void?" Nora asked, serving as humanity's primary representative, due to her connection with the original discovery. The response came as a series of impressions rather than words: a cosmic cancer, a breakdown of reality's fundamental laws, an entropy that consumed not just matter and energy, but the very possibility of existence. It had already devoured countless galaxies, countless civilizations. "You created us to fight this?" Reed asked, his military mind focusing on tactical implications. "To end it," the architect corrected. "All our technologies, all our conventional weapons have failed. The void adapts to every countermeasure. We needed something fundamentally different, a sentient species with the capacity to rewrite reality itself." "Why didn't you tell us?" Maya demanded. "Why hide our true nature?" The answer was surprisingly simple. You needed to evolve naturally first. Your baseline consciousness, your unique perspectives, your human creativity. These were essential foundations. Had we revealed your purpose too soon, you would have developed along predetermined paths, becoming mere extensions of our own failed approaches. Nora understood the implications immediately. You needed us to think differently than you do, to find solutions you couldn't imagine. Precisely, the architect confirmed. And now, the final phase begins. The transformation that had begun with the catalyst's activation accelerated. Humanity's collective consciousness expanded further, individuals maintaining their unique identities while contributing to an emergent intelligence that transcended the sum of its parts. The architects provided knowledge, the accumulated wisdom of billions of years and thousands of civilizations, but remained careful not to direct humanity's development. Within months, the first human solutions to the void emerged. Not weapons in the conventional sense, but reality-stabilizing technologies that reinforced the fundamental laws of physics against the void's entropy. Quantum reconstitution fields that could restore consumed regions of space. Dimensional anchors that prevented reality from unraveling. These weren't merely technological achievements. They were extensions of humanity's new consciousness. Tools that worked because humans could perceive and manipulate reality in ways the architects had engineered but could not themselves comprehend. 1 year after the artifact's discovery on Mars, humanity launched its first offensive against the void. A fleet of ships unlike any previously conceived, piloted by transformed humans whose consciousness extended beyond their physical forms. They traveled to the edge of the void's advance, where reality itself grew thin and malleable. Nora, commanding the lead vessel, felt no fear as they approached the impossible darkness. Through the collective consciousness, she sensed billions of humans watching, supporting, their combined awareness creating something greater than any individual could achieve. The engagement wasn't a battle in any traditional sense. It was a rewriting of reality's fundamental parameters, humanity imposing order on chaos, possibility on nothingness. The void fought back with dissolution and entropy, seeking to unmake the human fleet as it had unmade countless civilizations before. But humanity proved to be exactly what the architects had designed, a species that thrived on adaptive change, that could absorb entropy and transform it into creation. Where the void consumed, humans rebuilt. Where it erased, they reimagined. The conflict lasted what seemed like both an instant and an eternity, time itself becoming fluid at the boundary between ordered reality and the void's chaos. When it ended, the void had receded, not defeated entirely, but contained for the first time since it had emerged from between dimensions. Humanity returned changed yet again. The transformation that began with the catalyst had reached a new plateau. Humans remained recognizably human in form and individual identity, but their collective consciousness had evolved into something the cosmos had never before witnessed, a species that could perceive and manipulate the fabric of reality itself, serving as reality's immune system against the entropic void. The architects, their ancient mission finally bearing fruit, prepared to depart.